Okay, this indicator says we're live. Hi Discord. That's the first. Like last time, I've been on Solution1 just by myself and with two presentations. I think, if I remember correctly. This time I brought backup. So it's Martin and Matt with me. Say hi.
Hey folks.
Yeah, hi folks. Is that enough, or do you need to say more? Is it?
Yeah, that's enough. Let's get out now. So yeah, let's introduce ourselves for a bit here. So actually, let me see, because I have one screen where we've been talking about that actually, and we have this blog post from 2021. Some faces have changed a bit, as you might see on the bottom row here.
Are you talking about Matt's beard?
I'm talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
This guy.
It's the same guy.
Okay, Martin, maybe you start.
Yeah, sure. I'm Martin. Hello, Discord. Tuning in from Belgium. I'm actually wondering if anyone is on the chat. Where are you tuning in from? Would be curious to hear about that. I joined JetBrains long ago, working on ReSharper, Rider, TeamCity over a while, and I'm really happy to work on codes that is web-based, that is HTTP, that is around performance and everything that is there. Also, if you have used MyKit in the past, that was me. If you hate MyKit, that was also me. Sorry for that. But yeah, I've been in .NET for a while.
Okay, let's
over to you, Matt.
Yeah, maybe Matt. Okay.
Yeah, so we really should have had more up-to-date pictures and things for this, shouldn't we? It's like that child in that picture from 2 years ago. That is me. Yeah, hi everyone. Hi, I'm Matt. I'm from the UK, and I've been at JetBrains about a week longer than Martin, although it perhaps looks like it's been longer than that. Yeah, so I started with .NET and ReSharper and all of that, and Rider and everything, and I do a lot of stuff with the game development things. So the Unity plugin, the Unity support we've got in Rider, that was a plugin that I started many years ago, and then when the team realized that it was a very good thing to bundle into the product, I clung on and managed to stay committing to the product for a while, which is very good. I also work with the AI assistant, with the .NET products, the .NET tools and all that, and also Idea Vim. So I like to contribute to Idea Vim. If there's anybody who has any questions about that, then you can throw them my way as well.
Yeah, all right. Also, usually we are a couple more people, in fact, so I will continue with Rachel. Circumstances, unfortunately, it's just the three of us today. Rachel mainly works with web dev and AI. And we also have Khalid. If you're on social media, other social media channels, then you surely know him for his Photoshop skills. But also for web dev, and what do we have on the list here? I have to check again, not to forget. Yeah, Entity Framework Core, and a lot of other stuff. So he likes to explore many different ways of using Rider as well. Then over to me. Yeah, this photo is up to date, actually. So I'm Matthias. At JetBrains, I mainly focus on C# support. I usually write those blog posts, the feature blog posts for that, but also plugins and a little bit of Azure as well. Maybe you've heard about my project that I'm maintaining, which is Nuke, love or hate it. Everything is okay. But yeah, that's us. So since I saw it before, someone said, yeah, marketing crew. No, that's actually not the case, just to make this clear. So we all have a lot of background in the internals of ReSharper back then, and also Rider wrote a couple of features here and there. So yeah, you can throw pretty much any question at us, and we can try to answer them. Probably not possible with all the questions, but yeah, we will try. You can also freely use the Rider Gang macro now in Discord. That's something that was so funny when I first saw that. Martin and Matt probably don't know that because I just invited them to Discord, so they're usually not on the on the Discord server. And yeah, how would this go along here? Pretty much the whole time we will look out for questions if you have any. If it's on Discord, it would be better on Discord actually, but we also try to take a look at YouTube. But all the rest we will just fill up with some of our favorite features, maybe also some bits for the next release party. And yeah, if you have any questions on Discord, let me just write something. So Matt, that's me. So tag me with your questions, and Martin also is typing. And yeah, just tag any one of us. Yeah, Martin, you still have that. You still have that. I'm new here, newbie indicator. Nice.
I know, it's so cute.
I am new here. I am a newbie.
Yeah.
Okay, who wants to start?
You give someone yeah.
I volunteer Martin.
Then go ahead. Then Martin, I share your screen.
Cool. So yeah, I hope everyone knows Rider. If not, feel free to give it a try. Not going to go into marketing, but I am going to show you one of the things that I really like in .NET 8 and 9, but also in terms of the integration that we have for it in Rider. So not sure how familiar everyone is with ASP.NET Aspire or .NET Aspire, where you can essentially orchestrate how your projects fit together, what the dependencies are, and so on. I'm learning to love it. I'm still dabbling and trying to figure out how everything fits together. But I like the fact that you can express the setup of your entire application and how components fit together using C#, much like you do, Matthias, with Nuke, for example, where you can orchestrate your build in C#. It's actually nice in Aspire that you can do the same thing. So in here, I have a small sample application that is a typical weather service with a Blazor application. So I have an API service that is my API. I have a web application that is the web application. And then the app hosts, which is an Aspire project, telling Aspire basically how to bootstrap and launch this service. So what I did there is essentially set up Aspire in a way that I have my API service running as the name API service, where I can communicate with this thing. But this API service actually has a reference on a SQL database, which we have here. And that SQL database is hosted on a SQL server, which we have here, which will be hosted on a Docker desktop engine that I have on my machine, and which will stay around after I stop running this application as well, just to make sure that I don't have to always restart the SQL server that I have there. Now, what's really cool is that I can also define a cache, for example, that I can use in my web application. And my web application, I instrumented so that it's waiting for the cache to boot, waiting for the API service to boot, and yeah, basically making sure that everything is wired up nicely together. What's really nice is that when I run this application, I will get the Aspire dashboard. And again, if you're familiar with this, you might have seen this one where you can see all of the services that you have and how everything fits together. Let's wait for this to start for a sec. And then I will show you what this looks like. Come on, Aspire. This is the downside of streaming on the same machine, like where you are running the application.
I can already throw in a question, but you're answering it at the same time. So is Rider great for ASP.NET Core development, or is it mostly optimized for desktop application dev?
ASP.NET Core, absolutely. Yeah. So what happens when you run this application is that
well, no, I'm going to interrupt there. I'm going to have to interrupt and put my marketing hat on. It's not just great for ASP.NET Core stuff. It's got all the web tooling. Don't forget about that.
This is Rider, of course, but the question was about Aspire, I think, right?
No, ASP.NET Core.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, all the web tool. It's got all the web tooling from WebStorm in it.
Yeah,
so
this is true.
If you want to do front end development, then you can use just Rider. It's fantastic, and I should probably stop doing the marketing thing, shouldn't I?
Stop doing the marketing thing.
Okay, understood.
Marketeer.
So Aspire, I have my cache running on Docker, and actually, if I open up Docker Desktop, you will see that that container is running there, and I have those dependencies running in Docker now. But Aspire orchestrated this all for me. I have my API service, which is now using that SQL Server on the back end, and my web front end that is there as well. I can restart, I can look at the logs. If you are into OpenTelemetry, you can actually see metrics and traces in there of everything that is going on in your application. So it's pretty cool to look at. And the dashboard is really nice in terms of seeing how everything fits together, what is started and so on. And my application is now, as I mentioned, this API, which gives me back the weather data at random, so it's not very stable. And I have a nice Blazor application that has a counter that I can click, and this weather view that actually uses the API under the hoods. Now, what's really cool with Rider's Aspire integration, which is what I actually wanted to talk about, is that when you launch your application host in Rider, Rider will actually show you all of the different projects that you have running. So I have my Aspire app host here that is running. I can look at the logs, I can look at my API and all of the logs there, and I can look at my web application. And if you're debugging, you can debug all of them at the same time. Now, if you go into the services tool window, where's my services tool window? There it is. You can actually see Docker containers. So again, here I can see my cache and SQL Server containers running there. But I can also see my entire Aspire application being hosted in there. So I can see my API service in there. This migration project actually ran to do some database migrations I have SQL Server in there, the cache. And I can also look at the console of my SQL Server web frontend and everything that is there. So pretty nice. So you don't always need the dashboard to go into what is happening under the hood. Now, you might have noticed that I have SQL Server and a cache running there. What's also nice is that the Aspire integration in Rider gives you access to those databases out of the box. So the moment you launch your application, you have a SQL Server or that cache there. You can go into the database tool window and basically explore the database you have there. I can see my weather forecast table there and just connect to it and start working with it. So you don't even need the credentials that Aspire generates in the background. Same thing with the cache. I can look at whatever page cache was created. Nothing yet, so this is interesting. But typically, you will also see the output cache of the application there. I'm actually just going to refresh this one just to have a quick look. Refresh this one. Yes, there we are. So my output cache is in there now as well. So pretty nice that it all automatically connects. While we're talking databases, maybe one more, and then I'll probably hand it off to questions or someone else to present something, is the Entity Framework core integration in Rider. So I have a database there. Where's my API service? Yes, I have a weather context in Entity Framework core. I have a weather forecast entity that I'm using. What you can also do is create new migrations. Actually, in this project, for example, you can use Entity Framework core there, add migration, and based on whatever changes you have been making, you can basically script the migrations that you want to apply to your database that you have in there from within Rider. So I know a lot of people like the command line. I personally usually also use the command line for migrations, but this is really nice, especially when you're using a non-traditional setup. At least for me, I typically have my migrations in the same project where I run my application. In this example, I actually have the API service, which is hosting the context, but my migrations are in separate projects. So this dialog is kind of nice to be able to mix and match whatever your configuration is there. Matthias, can I do one more?
Sure.
Cool. So Entity Framework integration in Rider is really cool. It's not only on scripting migrations and so on, but it also lets you do inspections. So for example, this summary gives you an inspection that says possible performance issues caused by unlimited string lengths. I'm using SQL Server under the hood, and if you're doing that without passing the maximum length of a string in your entities, you're essentially making it possible for the data file in SQL Server to grow way beyond whatever you want to use there. So this inspection actually gives you a hint to say, look, you should be adding a max length attribute on this entity just to make sure that you don't exceed whatever the maximum page size is going to be in SQL Server there. Some other really nice inspections that are there. Actually, let me open up my program in my API service here. If you do something like in my query here, a distinct by where I filter by date, for example, you'll also see that there's an inspection here saying, look, this function is not convertible to SQL and must not be called in a database context. So if I do this, you'll actually see that you you will probably not be able to run a distinct by query on SQL Server in this case. Bunch of other inspections that are there as well. If you have joins, for example, Rider will suggest you to include additional tables to work with and all of that. Really fancy and really, really super helpful. With that, I'll pass it on to you, Matthias, or to Matt.
I will continue and actually answer a question right away. So let me read the question first. How good is Rider at supporting Visual Studio templates for libraries that support VS mostly, as it's easy to port them to Rider as well? What is the state of Rider extensions template development? So I'm not completely sure. Now let me switch over to Rider here. I'm not completely sure I understand the question. Because if you're talking about templates, then .new templates, they're supported just fine. And interestingly, so there's a template if you're talking about extensions in particular. There is actually a .new template for ReSharper plugins and Rider plugins. So what you can see here, again, this is about the template itself. This has certain parameters. Those are supported. You can read the description as well. Set values if they have default values, and you can just override them. But yeah, to answer it more in the context of extensions again, yes, we do have an SDK documentation. It's a bit outdated because most of it, mostly because I think, Martin, could you mute maybe in between?
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks. So about the SDK, yeah, we do have a couple of samples that show the most interesting extension points for features. But if there's something, and most extensions are something more interesting and extravagant, then it's good to reach out to us. We have an internal chat where we can help. So
okay,
yeah,
I'm unmuting Matthias. Just can you quickly jump to my screen?
Yes, sure. Wait a second. Martin here.
So
yeah.
If you're interested in building extensions, if you go to the JetBrains organization on GitHub and then just search for Rider, we actually have a lot of the plugins that you might use in Rider day to day are open source, so you can see how they are built. So if you want to build something, yes, we have documentation, yes, we have help, but also there's a couple of examples on how you can do, for example, the Unity integration. The Azure plugin is open source. That's a complex one, so probably don't want to look at that one. Everything I showed in terms of Aspire is there as well. So there's a couple of things that you might want to look into if you're looking into extending the IDE there.
It's definitely complicated, yeah, that I can say, but also worth it. It's always nice to build something that that you can not only use yourself but share with plenty of others. Yeah. So
and there's a lot of really cool things you can build there as well. So some really nifty ways of being able to extend the IDE. I just want to call out a little bit more on the new solution templates thing, just to make sure everyone got the fact that they are just .new templates. And there's a little link down the bottom there to manage templates as well. So if you want to install them, you know, you can click that, and what happens when you click that? You should get to the dialog. There it is, and gives you the information. You can just install it. You can install .NET new templates, and they'll appear as normal templates inside the new solution wizard there, which is really nifty. And yeah.
I think you can even just drag and drop, as far as I remember. But let me continue with some features I actually wanted to show. So many of you have probably heard about the new SLNX format. So where those nice solution files are converted into an XML format. So we have that in beta. Particularly if you're working in a team where everyone uses Rider, that's a good way to already use it because Rider supports it. But if you're working in a team where you still might to keep an SLN file, for instance, for CI/CD purpose, for instance, then maybe not just yet. But yeah, go and try it. It just transforms it into SLNX, and maybe you can get rid of the old one. Maybe not. Yeah, depends on your project. But a few things more about recent additions to C# 13. I'm sure many of you have seen the how's it called, .NET Conf and Mats and I forgot the other person's name, but talking about the field keyword, for instance. I just want to let you know here, this is what I love so much about Rider, is that we not only indicate, okay, here you can use the field keyword, and you can see right now it's using the backing field for a property. So we can't really use an auto property because we're making this modification here. But with the field keyword, we actually can, and it just converts that in one, alt enter keystroke. And you can see that the get accessor is also the shorthand, so it will know it returns the field here basically like this. Well, now it will show it's redundant. But the cool thing here is that you can do such upgrades to new language features in one go for your whole solution. Like you would do right here, you pick just replace with field keyword in the whole solution. I would just do it for the file. So then now you can see it. It also did that for the age property. That's always a nice way to just stay on the cutting edge, so to say. The second I want to show is partial properties. That's also a feature that has been long been awaited. So now you can have definitions, multiple definitions, and one implementation for properties. So I have a second part of the account type here. And now there are several ways to actually implement a property like this, either from alt enter, or you can also call partial here, and then it will complete to the missing member. What's also nice, if I, let's say I just return something, this is what I usually did here. What you can also do is, of course, to manage that from here. So if I turn it to private, you can see this also reflects up here. But let's convert back to public, and you can also merge them into a single definition as well. So merge partial members. You can see here it says partial member, not just property, because partial members have been available before, but it was limited to just methods. I would pass it over to Matt to show one thing. Do you want to, or should I take another one?
Well, I was going to answer a couple of questions. I can dive into that.
Or that, yeah.
Yeah, I'll dive into a couple of questions. So, first question, I mentioned the web tooling when I had my marketing hat on, and someone was asking about the web tooling that we've got. It is basically all of the web tooling that we've got in WebStorm. So it's got all the things like code completion and analysis and so on for the HTML, CSS, JavaScript, TypeScript, all of your other kind of crazy CSS flavors that are available there, and debugging as well. So yes, you can attach the front end and do debugging there too. One of the key things with Rider that might be a bit tricky with that one is quite often people don't put the front end code into their projects, in their C# project files, and so they don't show up in the Solution Explorer. So you can do things like attach a folder and then have your front end folder there, and then you can just use the web tooling from that, which is pretty nifty. Yeah, there you go. Right click on the Solution Explorer and do that. You can also switch the Solution Explorer into file view as well.
I was just about to say I have an attached folder in another project here for my docs, because they're not they aren't projects. So this is where I use this attach folder here, and it just reflects the structure from the file system. So there's nothing like people usually have done before, where you include everything in the project with item groups, etc. That was a workaround, or sometimes you would just mimic the same structure through solution items. Also not great, like here, but yeah, this is just reflecting the structure.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's pretty nifty. So yeah, web tooling, Rider is great for working on your web projects and your front end projects. And Martin kind of showed there, it's got the database tooling in there as well, so you can kind of do the full stack with everything. You got your C# backend, your web-based front end, your databases, your Blazor front ends, whatever. It can kind of do the lot, which is pretty nifty. Another question from chat.
Matt, just
yes.
hold on for a second there. Can I tie this question into a question that we just got on Discord itself? Which is, what is the most underrated feature that you find in Rider? I think this is a great spot to mention a couple of things there.
That is a good one. But
I'll go first with two of those if possible. So the database tooling, definitely, that is something that I think a lot of people don't know about because it's only this small icon that you have in the toolbar there. But explore this thing. There's a query console. You can give databases colors if you want to connect to production, for example, which, by the way, I don't recommend, but you can give databases different colors. If you want to work with any crazy database that you might encounter in the wild, Rider has support for pretty much everything that is out there. So that's really cool. You can work on the structure. You can do refactoring on tables. So for example, if you rename a column, you will see that you update this. If you have data that has coordinates, you will see a map. All kinds of really small things that are truly helpful if you're working with databases. Also, follow-up question there is often, is there support for scripting schema migrations and things like that in the database tooling itself? Absolutely, there is. Do I have room for one more underrated feature?
Fine, go on then.
Cool. Run configurations. I think this one ties nicely into the web tooling that you mentioned earlier. So in here, I can run my default Aspire app host, but if you go into edit configurations here, you can actually set up Rider to run pretty much anything. So there's a .NET Watch plugin that Khalid and I wrote, where you can essentially run .NET Watch from within Rider. But also, if you want to publish to a folder or to IIS or to a custom server, you can run that. If you want to attach to Chrome, if you have a Node.js application or React Native even, you can work with that there. So there's a lot of options where you can run pretty much anything you might want to run. And another quick side note here, and then I'll stop, I promise.
Sure, we've got half an hour. You can keep going if you want.
Yeah, true. There's one more here where you can do multi-launch. So if you have a backend and a frontend, for example, and you're not using Aspire or something like that, you can actually say, okay, look, I want to run my API, I want to run my web host, and I want my web host to start but only if port 5000 of my API opens. And then you can sort of run this one and debug this one and just run multiple things at the same time. And then as a last tip there, you can quickly open this one and just run one of those web run configurations that you created. There's also a nice shortcut where you can just run from that shortcut. On Windows, it's Control-Shift-Alt-R. So you can invoke this one and run. If you hold Shift, you can actually start debugging as well. So really nice, easy entry point into just running one or two projects that you have in your solution. Done, I promised.
Okay, that's good. Run configurations are pretty impressive, and if you're using ReSharper in Visual Studio, then you get run configurations in there as well, which is really cool because Visual Studio tends to only allow you one configuration per project. You know, you kind of set the values once and you're good. So it's nice to be able to have lots of different configurations for doing different things. So useful. Can I do my underrated features?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
Sure.
Shared. Awesome. I have two, and I've immediately forgotten the first one. But we'll go with this one here. Oh yeah, the first one is nice and simple actually. Just about any list you see, list or tree or anything, you can start typing, and it'll do a search in there. So if you want to get somewhere quickly, like if I want to get to models in this tree on the left, or if I want to get to resources, I can just start typing. You know, and then you can just sort of hit down to sort of cycle between them. That works in things like lists as well. So if I bring up version control list, and if I just start typing, I can get to those things very quickly. So pretty much anywhere you've got a list, that one's probably going to, no, it actually has to be a search, but if you've got one here, you can then start typing. So anywhere there's a list or a tree, just start typing and you'll be able to find things. So basically never bother with kind of going to menus and all this kind of stuff. Just search. Everything's all about the search. Shift and search and type and find it, and that's good. The other, that's kind of about all of the different IDs. We got the JetBrains ones. A rider specific one is Alt-Enter on a method and incoming and outgoing calls. This is perhaps my favorite feature in Rider and it is kind of a little unknown. If I've got this method here, what does it calculate ballistic fire vector from whatever? If I want to know how it's being used, I can do find usages, which is in the navigate menu. Find usages, and it'll take you into there, and it's like, oh, okay, fire at point, where's that one used? And I can use a keyboard shortcut and go off and find all of that, and I can go and see how it's all being used. But it's kind of, I have to do it every single time and everything. What you can do instead is like incoming calls. Let Rider do that for you. You can say, well, okay, it's being used by fire at point. And where's fire at point being used from? Launch. Okay, that's great. And that's being used from launcher.launch, fire projectile, on fire timer, and down to update. And you can kind of just walk down a call stack of how something is being used. This is a really, really useful way to read code. And we spend a lot of time reading code rather than writing it. So it's a great way to learn and understand what your code's doing. And you can do interesting things like, for example, if I'm down here and I find that target point here is null or something, then I can do inspect this, and instead of just having incoming and outgoing calls, we've got things like value origin and value destination. And what I can do with value origin is find out who sets target point. And here you can see it's being passed in through fire at point, and then you can actually say, there you go, it's being set with a call to a method there. And in fact, you can then sort of see what the return value is, and you can just keep on going, and you can learn where these values come from, and that'll take you through lambdas and closures and methods like that, see where things used as passed in as a parameter or returned as a return type. Again, very, very useful way of understanding the flow of data around your project.
Good pick, actually, because just someone from the chat said been using Rider for years and didn't know about the incoming calls one. Yeah, same for me. Until I used that, I was usually always running the application, debugging it, and then go through the stack trace basically to see where things are coming from. Yeah, but this is a much better way. Yeah, particularly also quicker if the application needs to load up for a while. So yeah, good feature.
Yeah, the other thing you can do with stack traces as well, if you just copy it from a log file or something, switch over to Rider, it'll recognize you've got a stack trace on the clipboard and show you in a tool window with the clickable links, which is, again, very, very useful. Now I was going to answer another couple of questions while we're still here. We got a couple of questions in the chat, which were, I actually think they came from YouTube. And the first one, there's two kind of linked really. It's what do you guys think about the future prospect of Rider versus Visual Studio? And then a linked one which says, just curious, why now for Rider being free for non-commercial use? And those are great questions. I think the simple answer really is, like the future prospect of Rider and Visual Studio is that we're going to end up with two great IDEs in the marketplace. Obviously, we have marketing hats, and we can put those on and say that we have a very clear opinion on which IDEs are better and more interesting. But having more than one IDE in a marketplace drives innovation, and that's what we intend to do. It's what we've been doing for years and what we'll continue doing. So we can still have a lot of great ideas for things to implement in Rider. We still think Rider is a fantastic IDE. It's getting great feedback, lots of people are using it and telling us that they love to use it, and it's got great functionality, and we're continuing to bring new features in and so on. And the next part of that really is the question about free for non-commercial use, and you might have missed this one. We announced this last month, that Rider and indeed WebStorm are now free for non-commercial use. And what that means is if you are using it for any kind of non-commercial reasons, such as learning a new language or learning a new feature, learning things like ASP.NET or Aspire or something like that, if you want to learn those, you can do so. If you want to learn something like game development with Unity and Unreal, it's free for usage. And things like content creation as well. So you can use it to record videos, record tutorials. If you're watching a tutorial and you want to learn something there and they're using Rider, you can just download it. You can use it because it's all free for non-commercial use there. Open source projects as well, which is pretty nifty. People have been asking us for forever really, for a community version. And we've had a community edition of a couple of the different products. IntelliJ IDEA, which is like the flagship IDE, which has Java, Kotlin, web tooling and everything kind of mostly in there. That's got a community edition, and PyCharm has a community edition as well. We didn't really want to do a community edition of Rider because you'd have to cut things out, and we could never decide what would get cut out. So you could have a community edition for game dev, for example, which didn't have the web tooling, but then the web people can't use it. And you could do the vice versa, have web tooling, which then the game dev people can't use, or the backend people, if we got rid of databases or something. So we basically thought, we've been trying to figure out what would be the right approach for this for a long time, and we've finally settled on doing non-commercial licenses, and that's where we're at. And we launched that last month. It's had a great response, and there's absolutely loads of people using it, as I say, to learn things, to work with open source, to build, to do content creation, and so on.
We also had, I will share that because I also prepared for that. We also had a great live stream about that with it was punchline after punchline for different features. So if you're interested, if you're curious, then also check that out. And someone made this great free rider meme. Yeah, so
it shows our age. It definitely shows our age.
Okay. Any other questions we want to answer here?
There was one more question about whether JetBrains will at some point build a dedicated AI editor or an IDE like Cursor, or will features like this be coming to the tools and so on. The easy answer there is I cannot talk about that at this point, and read into that whatever you want to read into that. However, I can mention that we currently have AI assistants that you can use. So for the person who asked the question, do give that a try. We have AI Assistant, which is our server-based AI assistant that you can use. Actually, by now, you can also connect, for example, Olama there if you have a local model running. But you can use this one to ask questions, to generate code, and so on. If you are in the IDE, you can Alt-Enter and then ask questions to the IDE in the editor. So that's an easy one. There's another one in terms of AI that we currently have in Rider, and that is full line code completion. So basically, when you are typing, we have a small local model running, looking at your current code and inferring what the next call could be or what the next thing could be in your code base. And I find myself using that one quite a lot because it's super helpful. It's not what you have in Cursor, for example, but it's definitely something that adds a lot of productivity in Rider.
I can also answer one more question, but let me. Yeah, I'm not trying to share anything. But where was it? What is the state of Avalonia support in Rider? Any special effort from JetBrains? So if you would know, so there's a plugin, and the whole plugin is maintained by one of our developers. Vanya Migalev, and I just looked that up on GitHub. So the last commit, the last actual commit was last week, and the last maintenance commit was an hour ago. So yes, I would say there's some effort going on. I
Vanya is prolific. He's a busy guy who does a lot of work.
We have in the Rider team, there's a couple of stand-ups, and Vanya has his own stand-up. Basically, he just talks for an hour. This is what I've done in the past week.
Mm-hmm. It's humbling.
I may show one more feature, one of my favorite features. That's something where we stop. The most underrated feature for me personally is multiple cursors, because they work in pretty much any file, any language that you use them, even if it's just a text file or markdown file, whatever. Yeah. So, but I find this example pretty convincing because there's not really a refactoring for that. Just imagine, for the purpose, for the sake of showcasing that, imagine that the test prefix should actually be a postfix, so it should be at the end of the testing method. So with multiple cursors, first I can just select that part that I want to change. Well, it wouldn't be just test that I select, because then I get some other instances that I don't want to show. But in this case, I would actually use task test and then select all the methods. Then I can dismiss that and just make it the postfix of my test methods. Yeah. Seriously, so many instances where I use that anytime when I know there's not really a refactoring, then I escape to using that. Okay, one more other feature that was one of my most favorite ones to blog about in the recent past was the collection visualizer. So in this case, the code doesn't really matter, but I would just debug that function. But it creates a series of temperatures where each temperature, it has a city, degrees Celsius, and a date, right, over a couple of days. Now what you can do is click on that and then choose to explore. Let's make this full screen. And now you have the full data set. By the way, this also works with with right here it's a collection, but it also works with data table, data set, and all these. But many things we can do here, including drawing a nice chart. So let's remove that and let's make this the date and then group by city, for instance. And now I have a nice visualization of all those temperatures. You can actually, that's a bit hidden, unfortunately, but you still have the same view onto those objects, which you usually have in a debugger. So you can just choose one of the rows and you can deeply investigate what's going on here. And by the way, just what Matt mentioned earlier, here it is again. You can just start typing and you filter down to several results. Yeah. Okay, who's next, or any other questions?
I'll jump in with another couple of questions. I'm loving this kind of whole load of question stuff. There's it's a really nice way of doing things. We quite often just stand up here and do it. Well, sit up here and just do a whole load of demos and stuff. It's very nice to be able to talk about some other things. So this one's a good one. It's like, have you faced negative feedback regarding the new and updated UI refresh of the editor? Which is a great question, because yes, we have. We've had a lot of negative feedback, but what we have also had is a huge amount of positive feedback, and also the usage numbers showing that overwhelmingly people are using it and enjoying it. They've switched to it, they've kept it going. They didn't switch back or anything. Yeah, it's been a very interesting one to watch, because the people who don't like it are quite vocal about it, and the people who do like it just quietly get on with building apps and don't necessarily take part in the comment threads to sort of say, nope, it's all fine, really like it. And so it's very interesting that we've got a very different balance of people and voices there, and we have to make sure that we are not just listening to the people who are sort of saying that it's terrible, but also paying attention to the usage numbers of people showing this that they are using it and enjoying it. That said, we are obviously listening to feedback, and there's been a whole load of changes to allow things like compact mode, labels, and so on as well. But on the whole, the new UI is very popular, and if you spend some time using it, it's actually not very different to what was there before, to be perfectly honest. We've still got the tool window icons around the edges, and the main toolbar has less buttons on it, but you can customize it to have however you want to. So it's mostly a cleanup with nicer spacing and fonts and things like that, which is pretty cool.
But by the way, very, very cool follow-up question on this, or more a follow-up comment, basically, is that Freezer has noticed that Rider seems to be the first IDE to get all of the new UI updates that are there. And it is really cool, because you would expect IntelliJ would get those updates first, because that's a platform that also Rider is building on. But it's really nice that Rider team takes the liberty sometimes to experiment with things. And then very often the platform takes that change and continues building it for all of the IDEs. So Rider is definitely, or has definitely been in the past, one of the front runners when it comes to experimenting with things like the run widgets, even before the new UI came about.
Absolutely. The Rider team are pioneers of trying to change the platform and improve it, doing studies, usability studies, and interviews and so on, and trying to change the platform trying to improve the platform basically for everybody, which is pretty nifty to watch. Another question, I think. A quick one. Somebody's asking about having some existing Windows-specific code and working on Mac and so on, and asking if Rider's planning to add Windows host support for remote development. The answer to that one is yes. It's on the roadmap, but there's no ETA for that at the moment, unfortunately. So I can't give you a firm date on that. I think we've got it working internally, but whether it's sort of production ready, I don't really know the answer to. So yes, excuse me, sorry. Yes, it will happen. Can't quite give you an ETA at the moment. Another question, Martin, this one might be for you. A question about stored procedures with the database plugin.
Yes, that one was also in the YouTube chats. It's definitely possible, so you can use those. You can work with stored procedures, with views, with pretty much anything your database has to offer. If you're watching on YouTube, and I actually might copy the link to Discord as well, there's a great YouTube presentation from someone on the data group team, which is our IDE for databases. That is essentially the database tool window in Rider as well. So I'll share the link because that one has a lot of small tips, all of the underrated things in the database tools, and I can promise you there's many. So stored procedures is only a big thing that's definitely supported, but there's a lot of smaller things as well.
There was one question about plugins. You need to update plugin XYZ. I would be curious if this was during a new release and what plugins are affected.
Actually,
anyone of you knows?
Yeah, so if you're using the Toolbox application to update Rider, then plugins should normally be automatically updated in there as well. Can you quickly show my screen? Because if you are not using Toolbox to update Rider, what you can do is go to the settings, search for updates. Actually did that beforehand. There's this updates panel where you can just say, okay, update all of my plugins automatically, and basically Rider will automatically in the background, even between releases of the IDE, will update plugins that you might have installed.
I did not know that.
There you go.
I noticed though that with the last release, I managed to deploy all the plugins that I maintained before the actual release was available. And during that installation of the new Rider version, all the plugins were updated, in fact. So, yeah. I meant to know this product. Yes, I am. But yeah, seriously, I mean, I guess it's the same for most of us. If we're doing presentations together, then each of us will learn something from the other person. Yeah.
Every single
many times.
These products are huge. A good example is to have a look at the what's new page for each release and scroll. The amount of new features that get added in every release is crazy, and to know everything is a tricky thing. But there are definitely some things that you can learn to sort of work your way around. I always say if you know Shift and Alt Enter, you can basically get everything. So Shift can find your code. The Actions tab there is really useful because it can help you find anything without having to remember the keyboard shortcut. And Alt Enter, you can just type there as well, and you don't have to remember the keyboard shortcut. If you just type rename, it'll find the rename action for you. And that's actually that page there, which is the what's new. That's the short version for the in product. The web version is even longer. There's tons of new features. It's fantastic.
I'm just not sure. Right, JetBrains Rider, what's new? Let me take a quick look. I think there's some versions which unfortunately, I mean, yeah, it's just the past 3 versions. Yeah. Well, we have YouTube videos of the release parties for more versions than just 2024. But yeah, we also regularly talk about this stuff. So that's a good reason to follow us. Yeah. I could sneak in one more thing here.
Go for it.
That is, let me see, I just have to add my screen again. So a lot of other content we do, .NET Insights. Rachel is making a newsletter every month. That's a good read. I'm maintaining OSS Power-Ups with lots of folks from different open source projects showcasing their stuff. And sometimes there was also a plugin that has been developed. And we have like the Solution X conference. We also have 2 conferences per year, online conferences. One is for .NET Days, and the second is for game dev in particular. It's always like 2 days that we usually do. And big news, that one I had, and yeah, that's this one we also had before. Okay, any other questions? Let me switch back here. Let's check the chat. I don't remember any of the other questions. Maybe if no one else objects, I can show one more thing.
Yep, go for it.
I'm a huge fan also of predictive debugger. So let me take this test here. Where is it? Should be something with default. Yeah, this one as an example. So Rider ships with a predictive debugger. So once I run the tests on this, then it should stop. I put a breakpoint already there. What you see on the left, this little purple bar here, that's the predictive debugger doing its work. And you can see this, for instance, is grayed out because this statement won't be reached because status is scheduled, for instance. And you can see what is the next statement that's going to be executed. You would also see if exceptions are going to happen. And 2 things that are pretty cool with that. The first is we can use those little inline action buttons to run to cursor more reliably in this case, because before you would have to know, will this statement that I pick here actually be reached in this invocation of the method? But with the predictive debugger, you're actually certain that this line will be reached. So that's the first. And the second, this is also great if you're experiencing any exceptions. So if the predictive debugger tells you an exception is about to happen, then you can use hot reload. So just change the code, hot reload, and you can basically afterwards just continue. Yeah. Okay, I got pinged a couple of times. I'm not sure where.
Yeah, I'm getting caught up
Okay,
reading the channel. This is good. We've got 5 minutes or so left. What can we show?
I do have one more, maybe a bit off from Rider, and that is, let me switch to this window here, and that is Kodana. So Kodana is kind of based on Rider in a certain sense. Well, more like kind of based on ReSharper in fact, but the same feature set pretty much, which is available in Rider. And what it does is you can integrate it into your CI/CD pipeline. So I'm the CI/CD guy, yeah, anyways. And you can integrate it in any that you use. So right here, it's just GitHub Actions. And it scans your code with the full feature set of what Rider offers in terms of finding new language usage opportunities or suspicious code, or anything that's not clean. Yeah, like for instance, this possible null reference exception. And you can also get a nice report from that, and report that is even takes historical data into account. So you will always see if something is new. You can move things to baseline. Like for instance, I moved 300 problems into the baseline. And there's a whole new chapter here. I've given presentations on that one for an hour as well. and not even that was enough to talk about everything. So go check out Codana as well. It's worth it. Okay, something more in the chat?
Yeah, there's another question here, which is asking about, can we have an in-depth video for JetBrains IDEs of all the Git features and how to toggle the UI in plain screen, branch tracking, switching, partial diff, etc. I'm not quite sure of those last ones, but can you share my screen? I can show you a couple of things.
Hold on. Where are you? Here, yeah. I think Paul did one, right?
Yeah, we've got a number of videos.
Paul has one, yeah.
Mm-hmm. With Git, but it's kind of worth showing that there is really good Git integration here. We've got lots of features. Obviously, you've got your log here, and you can then drop down and choose to just show whichever branch you're working on. It's nice to be able to just select head, and it'll just show you your current branch that you're working on, rather than sort of having to pick a particular branch, such as, I don't know, with whatever's in something. I name my branches well here, clearly. So we can name things like that. We can also filter by user, by date, also by paths as well. So if you want to see when something has changed in a specific folder, there's some useful things there. So if you wanted to see when things have changed just in audio, you could look at that, and it would only show you filter things there. But there's a lot of really nice features that are going on here. Tons of things you can do. Sort of creating a new branch or a new tag. You can reset the branches and stuff, revert commits, pull in cherry picks, and so on. One nice one we've got with the AI assistant actually is explaining a commit as well. So if we go to, let's try this one here, add day night cycle. Well, I could look at the diffs myself, or I could get the AI assistant to explain what's going on there. And that will look at the diff and actually summarize what the changes were, which is a pretty nifty way of doing things. What you could also do is find the errors in the commit. So we could see how Martin has made a mess of this commit and see what was done. How good is it being? Here are some points. Oh no, it appears components are added correctly, so this is good. The script correctly updates the things.
This is my best Unity scripting ever.
All seems okay with these changes. The commit adds the intended functionality without apparent errors. All right. You did well out of that one.
But yeah, I'm following Discord more often, yeah, and this is so true what Nox said about TV code. Look, it's your favorite window. This is, yeah, it is. I know as well. One more thing about Git VCS integration. Well, not in particular, but more like very, how to call it, related, is local history. So I will give you that as a homework. Try to research local history in Rider, and I'm sure you'll find out why it's absolutely great and worth having.
Yeah, local history is cool. In fact, I might be able to show that. So this file's been modified here. If I bring up the version control menu there, we've got show history. Oh no, sorry, show local history.
I said homework. I said homework. We don't have enough. We don't have enough time for that. I think we have like 1 minute to say goodbye and everything. But yeah, what do I want to say to say goodbye? Goodbye.
Goodbye. Go and download Rider. It's great, and you can use it for non-commercial usages, which is even better. It's just free for you.
I think it was really fun. I just want to let people also know. We're tracking Discord to see when someone mentions Rider. It would always be good if you just ping me. I'm not sure if Martin and Matt stay around for the eternity, but I'm a frequent user in Discord, so make sure to text someone of us if you have questions. And yeah, I would say it's been nice.
It's been fun just answering questions.
Yeah, exactly. Just freewheeling through the entire IDE.
Yeah, it was just a question. I was about to show that with a verify snapshot testing library. We have a plugin for that, yeah. But I will keep an eye out and maybe answer some questions also later. So we all thank you for the time that you spent with us and wish you a good rest of the conference, and yeah, switch over to the next one. Yeah.
Thanks, folks.
See you, folks. Thank you.